This is Vol and Lord Hammer from the TORSyndicate.com, and we are here with Damion Schubert. Damion, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
Very cool.
So basically, we're trying to have an interview that's kind of completely different than all the ones you've probably been getting, like needling and poking to try to get every last little bit of information out about flashpoints specifically and about crafting. And really what we were kind of wanting to know is just, about you. I mean, like, where'd you go to school? How did you get into games? And how did you get into game design?
All right. So I've been, when I went to college, I went to the University of Texas here in Austin.
Okay.
And just by happenstance, I started to date a girl who was into these things called text muds.
Mm-hmm.
And text muds were basically the precursor for the EverQuests and the World of Warcrafts and the other massive multiplayer games you see today. They had a whopping 150 people in the same space at the same time. And the interface was pretty much a Zork-like text browser that you typed into, and I just got completely and totally addicted to these games. They impacted my life far longer than this particular girl ever did.
So Zork and Load Runner and all those kind of things?
Well, to me, it was, getting into the games industry was always about the MMOs. It was always about making these social games for these social spaces, always about the power of what happens when you make experiences for tens or hundreds of people all in the same space, all trying to achieve the same goals. And that's kind of the role that I was brought onto the Star Wars team to fill, was the guy who brings that kind of experience and that kind of perspective to the design, and be sure that we are keeping that sort of stuff in mind.
Okay. Now, real penetrating question: were you a Star Wars fan before you came to BioWare?
I was born in 1973, so yes, clearly. I remember the first time I saw Star Wars. I was in a drive-in, and my brother, who had just been born, was crying the whole time, and I still give him crap about that.
Nice.
But yeah, I've always loved the movies. Always had a real soft spot for them, and it's a dream come true to actually come here and work on this project in particular, because it really is just the perfect license in order to make a massive multiplayer game. If you don't want to make one that's about swords and dragons and all that stuff.
So kind of back to my first question, what did you get your degree in, and then what are some of the companies you kind of worked with that kind of got you to where you are now?
I got my degree in advertising.
Okay. So that's like a business kind of major.
Advertising is really a sort of a creative marketing.
Okay.
It's all about actually doing the copywriting and doing the page layout that you actually see in magazine ads, or writing scripts and whatnot. But around the time that I graduated college, I basically couldn't find an advertising job, and around that time I had a friend, this guy named Raph Koster, who was determined to convince a company to make a massive multiplayer game, and he ended up getting a couple of job offers. One of them was from this company called Origin, and he took that job, and the other one was for a company called Archetype that was making a game called Meridian 59, and he recommended me for that job because I was basically the wizard on his text mud, and so him and I got along very well. And that's kind of how I broke in. Meridian 59 was one of the granddaddies of the massive multiplayer space. It was by no means the first pay-for game, but it was one of the first to be 3D, one of the first to have a monthly fee. I know it's probably impossible for a lot of our current audience to even remember or imagine this, but in the very early days of the industry, you would pay hourly to get your fix on massive multiplayer games.
I'm older than you are, so trust me when I say I do remember.
So yeah, we were one of the ones that brought the idea of the monthly fee to massive multiplayer games, and very quickly everybody followed our suit. We came out actually a year before Raph came out with Ultima Online, So hey, go us. You know, we had fully tens of thousands of users, and it was clearly the dawning of a new age. It was exciting times.
So I know Raf's going on to sell what played on to with Zynga, and then they sold it to Disney or something to
Yeah.
that effect. So we'll wait to see what you'd end up doing. So then, what are some of the other companies though that you went to, and obviously right before that, or was that your transition into EA and Bioware?
Well, I went from Marine 59 was eventually bought and published by 3DO. After that, I jumped ship to Origin, where I was lead designer of Ultima Online 2, which never saw the light of day, unfortunately. I had a startup for a little while in there, where we did, we tried to shop our own products and almost sold them, and while we were doing that, we did some consulting work for some really crazy people, because that's largely what consulting is trying to introduce sanity to things. And then after that, I worked at Wolfpack, where I helped them. I joined them right before Shadowbane shipped, and I helped them ship that, and ship to expansion packs as well. And then around that time, this project was starting up, and I jumped ship to this.
Okay, so time-wise, that makes sense. And you know, from our perspective, and you know, me specifically, and also looking at your, you know, I guess your blog, you know, the Zen, or like also what you use as your Twitter. How much would you say what you do is vision casting and really trying to provide you know, leadership and guidance and all the kind of things that are involved with trying to come up with a clear idea and then enforce that idea to make sure it comes to fruition?
I think a lot of what I do is, you know, there's a lot of creative, and I'm drawn to the creative, but for me, it's a lot of rationale. It's a lot of crystallization. You know, I don't want to just do X feature or Y feature or Z feature because this other game has them. I want to, you know, I want to understand why those features are in the game, what audience it serves, and is there a way to do these features better? Is there a way to actually take this to the next level? And, you know, sometimes you come back with, no, actually, this is the best way to do it, and that's one of the reasons. I'm sure that you see from, if you go back in my blog far enough, you'll find passionate defenses of experience points and levels, for example. You know, there's a very, very good reason why we've been writing experience points and levels inside of the RPG genre in particular for a very, very long time. They just solve a lot of problems, and they make a lot of things smoother for the player experience, especially the casual player. But in other areas, you know, you look at the reasons, what people are trying to do, what people want to get out of the system, and you say, you know, we could be doing a lot more, and we could be doing a lot more, and sometimes with really big changes, but sometimes even with just a couple of key pinpoints here in there in the design. And to some degree, I think, you know, that's what got us the crew skill system. You know, it's definitely scratches a lot of the same itch, and, you know, serves the needs that the casual gamers want out of it, but, you know, hopefully what we bring to it is something that brings a lot more depth to the people that really, really enjoy that aspect of massive multiplayer design. And that's what excites me, is that sort of, okay, let's analyze the problem, and let's crystallize what's important about this design, and what's, you know, what we need to solve, and then let's really do something that speaks to that. And on this project, you know, speaks to that, fits with the other design elements, is Star Wars-y and all that.
So
I'm sorry, guys, we have to make this the last question.
okay, you made a great segue for me to ask this or set up this next question. With the way you prefaced this all, and I'm sorry for hogging this, but
I don't know.
you know, Raph was and I'm sure still is, a visionary, and there were so many great things about SWG, and you know, obviously, you know, there are mixed feelings with where it kind of went, but there's still so much right about it that everybody in MMO space who played it, you know, there were so many just iconic things that people love. So for example, with crafting, I see, and maybe I'm just stretching and I'm trying to make a self-fulfilling prophecy, corollaries between having a harvester. Basically, you set it down, it goes and it grabs you things, and then, you know, you get enough of these things, you come up with a template and you put it in, or a blueprint or whatever,
Factory.
put it into a factory, and now the factory kind of makes something for you. And to me, I kind of see that as the crew scale system, you know, kind of like that to a degree, in the fact that you can direct an NPC, your companion, to collect resources for you and then to create for you. I mean, was there any kind of transition and evolution of that, or are those just two completely different things that just kind of seem that I'm reaching for? Am I just making that transition because I want to, that connection because I want to, or was there any kind of logic there?
I think you're reaching a little bit,
Okay.
Simply because philosophically we didn't start there, and
Okay.
You'll never get me to not Galaxies. I actually played Galaxies quite a bit. I was a master wookiee armorsmith in the game, so I'm familiar with their crafting. We have a couple of Galaxies people on the system design team, in fact. But that being said, not just our game and their game, but all massive multiplayer games start with a core philosophy that is central to what they do, and everything bends to and around that philosophy. And their philosophy really was about making a virtual Star Wars world, and everything sort of bent to that. And they really wanted to amp up the production line aspect and really ramp up the crafting experience in that direction. And it worked out very well for them. They have a great crafting game. On the flip side, though, we're really more of a adventuring experience, right? To us, it is very much about, the thrust of the game experience in ours is the adventuring, and yes, the story, and being sure that is sort of an experience that drives you throughout all of the content. And the most important thing for us is that crafting has a symbiotic relationship, that the economy is at its core an adventurer's economy, but crafters are really, really important to that. And so, I realize it's subtle, but this is one of the reasons why it's very easy to abstractly throw the entire kitchen sink of features into this is what this MMO should have because these other games have it, yada, yada, yada. But, we're all working within constraints, and we're all working within, finite budgets, even us. And so it's all about, okay, this is the experience that we're trying to sell. This is, this is the thrust of our game. Now, what are the things that really prop this up well? What is the thing where this system feeds into this system and it's symbiotic and they feed into each other, and you have this really cohesive whole? And so, to us, the crew skills was very, very much driven by this idea of an adventurer's economy and that sort of feedback.
All right.
You have one more question, I guess, because he's gone. Quick, something fast.
Actually, I'm pretty satisfied with that. So
I guess I'll try to squeak one last one in here. With flashpoints, what was
I thought you were going to needle me.
what was your motivation behind creating flashpoints as we kind of see them? Was it to try to create an instance for leveling, or was it to try to kind of be a space to basically have like what I consider like a small scale raid? And because it's very impactful, it's very adventurous, and yet it has all of the elements of a raid that I think are just amazing.
Oh, have you actually gotten to play them?
I've played 3 of them, 3 different ones.
To us, the big thing about telling about the flashpoints was really philosophically, we wanted to have a place where we could tell stories that were really Bioware experiences. It was less about trying to capture the dungeon experience or the raid experience or whatnot, but we really wanted to have places where you could do things and see impacts of your decisions happening around you, and it needed to be instanced and farmed off for that reason. And so really what I think you see is it's our spin, Bioware's spin on the dungeon stuff, where it's like, we really want the adventuring to be good in these. And in some of our flashpoints, they work out really well. Some of them not so well, but we're getting a lot better at it. I think they're going to become richer and richer as the project progresses on, not just to ship, but in the releases after.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking time.
No problem.